I'm horror author Paul Edwards. Tonight I'm reading Monsterama magazine, issue number 1 from 1991. I thought some of you might enjoy flipping through this vintage monster magazine with me. Just in case you don't own your own copy of Monsterama issue number 1. Together, let's see what kinds of vintage monster goodness is in here. Forrest J. Ackerman's Monsterama magazine, issue number 1 from 1991. Cover price, $3.50, 10 times what Forrest J. Ackerman's first magazine, Famous Monsters of Filmland, cost when it first came out. And of course, we're hitting all of Forrest J. Ackerman's favorites in the launch of his new monster magazine. Karloff, Lugosi, Chaney, meaning Lon Chaney Sr., and the Wolfman, who of course was Lon Chaney Jr. Look, it's a collector's classic. Wow. All right, let's get right to it. We're starting right out with a tribute to Lon Chaney Sr., the man of 1,000 faces. Lon Chaney shall not die. Forrest J. Ackerman loved to use jokes and puns in his magazines, and he made up a lot of nicknames for himself, like the Acker Monster, and this was one of them, Dr. Acula. He's got a dedication to his late wife here. That's nice. And here on this page, he's giving an explanation of how he went from co-creating Famous Monsters of Filmland all the way up to the debut of this new magazine. Oh my gosh. Look at Boris Karloff as the mummy. Wow. He's using puns that he first used in Famous Monsters of Filmland. Table of contents. He used that in Famous Monsters of Filmland number 4. I remember that. So that's decades old. Monsters are good for you, you're right. It's funny, but from the comedy horror movie Abbott and Costello Meet Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, they got a lot of pretty good Mr. Hyde images that they used to run in 40s magazines. Alice in Monsterland, okay. Lon Chaney had 1,000,000 of them. The man of 1,000 faces. One of his most famous being the Phantom of the Opera. Forrest J. Ackerman saw Phantom of the Opera and a bunch of other Lon Chaney movies in the theater when he was a boy, and they terrified him and affected him for life. There's Lon Chaney again. Oh my gosh. From A Blind Bargain. Chaney was champ, you're right. Now, Lon Chaney had nothing whatsoever to do with the Godzilla movies, so I'm not sure how that wound up here. But it is a good picture. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Boris Karloff in The Ghoul. George Zucco. The Monster Maker is a lesser-known Poverty Row film. You can find that film on my YouTube channel, on my All Night Spook Show podcast. That's a halfway decent thriller from the early 40s. I Was a Teenage Werewolf, starring Michael Landon. Oh my gosh. My favorite rendition of Mr. Hyde was from the lesser-known 1931 version, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, starring Frederick March. This movie was really overshadowed by the 1941 Spencer Tracy version, but which is also great, but I really like the Frederick March one. Yikes! Okay, so it took me years to track down what this image was from, because it's often incorrectly billed as being Dwight Fry playing Renfield in the 1931 movie Dracula, and it's clearly not Dwight Fry. The confusion is because this is the actor who played Renfield in the stage play of Dracula. His name was Bernard Jukes. It's not Dwight Fry. So that drove me nuts. So I just saved you years of frustration if that's ever bothered you. Bernard Jukes is that actor. And it's not from any movie. The Frankenstein monster, of course. Forrest J. Ackerman was asked once to list his 5 favorite horror movies of all time, and on the list was the 1931 Frankenstein. It's also on my list. This image here comes up every once in a while. This didn't make it into the final movie. These metal ridges here were one of the potential makeup designs that Jack Pierce had in mind, but they wound up not using that. So there's a limited number of these images circulating around. You see them every now and then, but they're not in the actual film. Yeah. Imagine the makeup job that Jack Pierce did and that Karloff had to endure to play the Frankenstein monster in 3 movies, no less. Behind the scenes pictures sometimes crack me up. You have these fearsome monsters and then, they're on their lunch break or something. Well, Karloff was, having his tea time. He wasn't going to go without that. There's Colin Clive, who played Dr. Frankenstein. Frankenstein writhes again. Really. There's Gary Conway playing the monster in I Was a Teenage Frankenstein. There's Christopher Lee playing the Frankenstein monster in Curse of Frankenstein, the first of the Hammer Studios Frankenstein movies. Monsters are badder than ever. Shouldn't that be worse than ever? Lon Chaney Jr. in his 4th and final turn as the Mummy in The Mummy's Curse. Yikes. Oh, Tobor. Tobor, which is robot spelled backwards. Tobor was a movie that was supposed to be sort of like the pilot for a TV series about a robot that was friends with a boy. They made the movie, but the series never happened. But there is a movie out there, Tobor the Great. Oh, Glenn Strange as Petro from The Mad Monster. Lon Chaney in Man-Made Monster. Lon Chaney Jr., that is. And also Lon Chaney Jr. here. And his signature role, the Wolfman. There's another great Jack Pierce makeup masterpiece. So there was a science fiction horror movie called The Amazing Colossal Man. And at the end of that movie, the Amazing Colossal Man seemingly fell to his doom. But then they made a sequel, The War of the Colossal Beast, and they had to show that he had had some significant damage to him. So they completely jacked up one half of his face. And it made him look a lot scarier. Although it wasn't the same actor, though. John Carradine. John Carradine made a lot of otherwise terrible movies bearable. Wow. The Crimson Ghost. Remember Blackula? Of course, here's Christopher Lee, the first time that he played Count Dracula in Horror of Dracula, 1958. Oh my gosh. Oh, The Werewolf of London. The Hideous Sun Demon. Yikes. This is from I Married a Monster from Outer Space. Frankenstein's Daughter. And of course, this is Son of Frankenstein, with the two titans of 30s and 40s horror. Boris Karloff playing the Frankenstein monster, and Bela Lugosi playing Igor. This was in Son of Frankenstein. You can tell by the vest that the monster has on. But Igor came back in the next Frankenstein movie, but it wasn't Boris Karloff anymore in Ghost of Frankenstein. It was Lon Chaney Sr. Lon Chaney Jr. Don't listen to me. Siegfried. Well, I could tell you that's anyone, but the caption gives it away. Vincent Price as the Invisible Man in the Invisible Man's Revenge. Is that the Invisible Man's Revenge, though, or is that the Invisible Man Returns? Vincent Price was in the Invisible Man Returns, not the Invisible Man's Revenge. I think that might be a mistake. Public Vampire #1. That could only be Bela Lugosi. You know, he played other vampires besides Count Dracula. Of course, he famously played Dracula in the 1931 movie. But he also was in The Return of the Vampire. Look at this poster, too. I've actually never seen this particular movie poster for Return of the Vampire. I've seen the movie. The werewolf is on the loose. Man or monster or both. But the main villain in the story is the vampire, played by Bela Lugosi. You'd think they would play that up more. The werewolf was a supporting character. He was the familiar that was controlled by the vampire. He was Bela Lugosi was Count Armand Tesla, the Devil Bat. That's an early Poverty Row one that Bela Lugosi was in. Return of the Ape Man. That's another Poverty Row one. Another one from the 1931 Dracula. This is from Murders in the Rue Morgue. That's true. You know, we are never far from Carl. Oh, this is from Mark of the Vampire, when Bela Lugosi played yet another vampire. This was a remake of a lost Lon Chaney Sr. film called London After Midnight. And we don't have, sadly, London After Midnight anymore, although we have still images from it. We don't have the movie. But the same basic plot was reused in this film, Mark of the Vampire. Oh, Lugosi, you never ran out of these creepy expressions. Many harpy returns. Oh my gosh. Oh, dear monster. Now, how do they have letters to the magazine in the first issue? They do. Monsters for sale. You know, we haven't seen that many crazy ads in this magazine. Forey and Grimmy. Oh my gosh. Yep, there's Forrest J. Ackerman himself. Oh, check this out on the back cover. One of these ideas for slogans and promotions for this magazine. Oh, brother. My kind of humor, Marquis de Sade. Quoth the Raven, more, more, more. I'm beside myself with joy, Dr. Jekyll. But this is probably the most appropriate one. Dr. Acula has risen from the grave. Because Forey was back with this new magazine. Listen, if you enjoy retro horror, if you enjoy classic monsters and vintage horror, check out my book series, the Mourner's Woods books. I'm self-published on Amazon. I've written a series of novels that take place in a haunted forest. In each book, a completely new cast of characters enters Mourner's Woods, where they face monsters, fiends, ghouls. But the greatest threat that each character faces is always the friend who hiked here with them. My name again is Paul Edwards. My books are the Mourner's Woods books. Thanks for spending some time looking through Monsterama magazine's premiere issue. I'll see you in Mourner's Woods.